Hello, hello, hello. It's lovely to be here. It's just after midday UK time. It's Saturday, the 5th of September, which means it's strictly day 5 of Inktober 2024. But I've missed the last couple of days because I'll tell you more once I start doing stuff. How about that? Thank you for joining me. Thank you ever so much to everybody who subscribed recently. I appreciate it so much. I can't believe it's just a few days ago that I was just over 3,000 subscribers, and now I think it's about 3,200, which is crazy. Honestly, I can't believe that. So thank you so much. I am taking part in the Inktober Tangle Challenge with the aim to get me to do something every day. But things get in the way. I said I'll explain more. But if you're new here and you're enjoying what I'm doing, it is alive today, and I'll explain why it's alive as well later on. Hopefully I'll remember to. But this was day 1, which is Ambler. Last time I showed you, this was just black, white and grey, and I've added some colour in places. And I used Pit Artist pens by Faber-Castell to do that, which are Indian ink, so they're permanent and waterproof. And I like the colour a lot more. I've chosen lots of different colours because that's me, but I got so far and then I had to go and do something else. But it's a sketchbook, kind of, and it's not meant to be perfect. So I can come back to it or choose not to do anything and see what happens. Day 2 was this lovely tangle, which is Mary Shell by Lena Light. And all I've done here is finish off adding colour, though I think I did that in the video. I could be wrong. I do have problems at times remembering what I've done a lot of the time. All I've done really is to add some white dots, and I don't think I added any more. I might have added some more stuff. I don't know. I can't remember. But I thought I'd put in using a very fine pen. I think that was a 0.05 Staedtler, what do they call it? Pigment liner. This one, in fact. So it's a much finer line than I'd usually do to get that ghostly look. But I've also dug out a pale grey Unipin 01, which I may use. I know I dug that out for a different purpose, which I've just remembered what it was for. The sun is coming in and out, so I'm not going to apologise for the light going brighter and darker. It is what it is, and I'm happy with that. Let me just autofocus, hopefully. There we go. And hopefully it'll stay autofocused, will it? Nope. So that's the one for that. Okay. So what I've done over the last couple of days is I've just played around with those 2 tangles. I'm not happy with this. I went and added shadow using grey Pit Artist pens, and I chose 2 of the not the lightest, but the next 2 lightest colours, and it's just way too dark for me and too solid. But having said that, I enjoy the way that I used Mary Shell. I started with 1 here, but then I just used half of it to continue on. And I quite like this idea of those half Mary Shells. And I used this, which I don't know what this is called. I know they use it in Zentangle. Can't remember what it's called. But a line with just a blob on, then an aura around it, and then an aura around the outside to make things that look like very frondy, ferny things. And I like that as well. I like, oddly, Ambler as a background. It's a nice contrast to the curviness of everything else. Yeah, some mookerish stuff had to appear there because why not? And I did fill these areas in with that tiny dot, tiny circle tipple Zentangle name for it is. And I really wish I'd left it as it was. I've just used graphite or some colours to add shading, but I didn't. So I did it again. But it's different because I drew it again. I used a thicker pen to get bolder lines. I used, instead of the frondy things, I used a variation on Mooka. You find these kinds of leaves in medieval manuscripts. and I have drawn them before in previous videos and shown how to use them. Again, used Ambler here underneath these. Used that Mary shell again, but this time with two rows of little beads or seeds there. And on this side, instead, I put like little arches, almost like little flower petals caught inside. And I like that variation as well. And I've got Ambler here as a grid. I've got it here as individual fragments, almost like little tiles that are stacked between. So it's almost like a transition. And over here, I started with triangles, but it became all kinds of shapes. I particularly like these kite shapes. And a kite shape is really just a variation on a square, but I also like the triangles, and I'm not sure if there are any other shapes in there. There's an odd one here. There's some not parallelograms, trapezoids in places as well. And that was fun. Here I mirrored. No, I didn't, but it looks like it's going upwards. Now this would be fun to play with shadow, but I haven't, because I really don't want to mess this up. Now I realise this is Saturday lunchtime as I'm recording this, and I realise many people may be busy on a Saturday lunchtime, and I'm not. I am expecting deliveries at some point, or a delivery, and that means that I may have to get up from my desk and go and get it. But I've got time this afternoon, I've got the energy to do this, and I know that you can view it as you wish, in real time or not. So I'm going to try to go through 2, maybe 3 of the Zen tangles. Oh, look, I didn't get my distress inks to colour the background. Well, let's not. Yes, let's go and get them, because my microphone will carry far enough for me to get the box with them in out. Yep, I managed not to throw them all over the floor, which is always a bonus, let me tell you. Oh, I'm so clumsy at times. You hear any strange noises, it's just me moving stuff around to make space for my bits and bobs. Okie dokes. Let's get that out of the way. And that. Oh, those I'll bring. I'm going to use different colours today. Not sure what I want, other than I'm going to use these most probably. And I do need a piece of cut and dry foam and a piece of paper that I can just make a mess on, because, you know, that's important. Ooh, paper there as well. I do get myself in a state. I thought I'd organise myself here properly, obviously not. Mind you, if I'd organised myself properly, it wouldn't be an Angela video, would it? So this is cut and dry foam. I'm going to use it to apply some distress inks. And the ones I've got here are my more pastel-y shades. I think I'm going to use old paper, and I may use a different colour. Old paper on the top looks sort of like yellowish, but in reality it's actually quite a greenish colour. But oddly, it does look like aged paper in a strange kind of way, because some old papers do have that kind of greenish look to them. I often think that the antique linen that's here is more of an old book page colour. It's just to tone down this white, it's to break the white up, it's to give me an interesting background. I think I'm going to just put some, not the curtains down, but I got foil curtains underneath my main curtains, and that will stop the intense brightness, and hopefully the lamp I've got on, lamp light, will help to keep the lighting more even. Seems a shame to shut the sun out, but it's necessary. So I'm putting on plenty of this. I want to go over the holes here if I can as well. It's not essential because that's where this will be bound, or where it goes back in the disc binder. So just making sure I've got plenty of that. I am going to go and use some antique linen as well, which is also looks greenish on the pad here, but it's not. This one is more of a browny colour. Just going to add that in places just to bring this out, like so. And rather than me do 2 of these, one after the other at different times in the video, I'll do 2 or 3 pages now. And this one is tea dye, which is a nice, quite nice brownish colour. It's a warm colour. And I'd prefer to use this than trying to tea dye paper. I know people who make junk journals tea dye paper. Hello to everybody who's joined me. I can see there's 4 more here. Hello, Oz Tangle. Lovely to have you here. And greetings to you from South Wales. Not New South Wales in the UK. Thank you for joining me. I was surprised anybody has on a Saturday lunchtime here in the UK. So it must be quite late at night for you. So thank you so much. So I've got that one done. Let me go and get my little book again, and I will get 2 more pieces because I'm definitely going to do 2 tangle variations today because that is my passion in some ways, or this is something that I really enjoy doing, is working with motifs, working with patterns and seeing how I can vary them. It gives me something to start from, and then my creative juices flow, shall we say. So I want to make 3 today, just in case I get to, what's the one I'm thinking of? Day 5, because that will have caught me up then. So while I'm doing this, I haven't been around the last couple of days. I had plans to do something every day. But Thursday, I had in the mornings, I have Welsh lessons on Tuesday and Thursday mornings from 9:30 to 11:30. It's online, which is great for me. And well, I thought it'd be better for me than in person because I do get very overwhelmed with noise and people and kind of, you know, sounds ridiculous, but knowing what's expected of me or how to behave, or it's just harder for me than it is online, even though it's with a group of people. And I thought that'd be great. It will limit how much I get overstimulated by people. Oh, that's not so bad. We'll see, Oz. We're about from Wales. So I think it was my 4th week of lessons. I got 30 weeks in all in this course to do units 1 and unit 2, the beginner courses, and then there's 2 other courses above that. There's sort of like advanced and proficient, and I'd like to do them because I'd love to be able to read Welsh literature in Welsh just because I can. It's like I've got this overwhelming desire to learn Anglo-Saxon. I haven't done that yet, by the way, but you never know. One day I may. So it's on my list of things I'd like to do before I pop my clogs, as we say. Oh gosh, that's really wet. That's much darker than I wanted it, but hey ho, it is what it is. Jeez Louise. This is salvaged patina, which is one of the new colours in the distress line last year. I must have re-inked this because I think it came to me very dry, and I've obviously overly re-inked it, but actually I'm quite happy with that. Surprisingly, I would like a little bit more somewhere, perhaps a little bit just up there. I like that. That's worked out nicely, actually. See, never panic about things. And just a bit of that brown around the edge, because this is what's going to bring everything together. I can't do it to ambler because the distress ink will actually cause issues with the ink. It will move the pigments. It's just the formulation of distress ink and pigment pens. So that one is fine for now. Let's go for one more, and then I'll show you all 3 of them together. So I want a different kind of colour here. So I rather like weathered wood. Weathered wood. Just clean some of that salvage patina off. My bit of cut and dry foam. If there's a hint of salvaged patina here. Oh, yeah, salvage patina, I think it is. Yeah, of that beautiful green colour. It reminds me of the verdigris you get on copper once it's weathered. It's lovely. Sometimes get something similar on bronze as well, because bronze is an alloy of copper. So to go back to Welsh and why I didn't do a video on Thursday, I have worked out that I find it incredibly difficult to hear my voice while everybody's talking. And by talking, I mean we're asked to repeat things or to answer yn Gymraeg and Welsh. And of course, once people start talking, my head just goes. I can't listen to myself. I can't hear what people are saying. And so I try to speak before anybody else in the hopes I can get it out, and it's not working really. But it leaves me incredibly drained. I could feel my energy going more and more throughout the Welsh lesson. And by the end of it, I was absolutely exhausted, and all I could do was sleep. And I did sleep. I slept. And it also brought on a bit of IBS as well. So I'd either eaten something or all of that there. And so I had a pretty afternoon. And then after an annual review at the doctor's, I've had a different medication prescribed. So I went to pick my prescription up and started taking that Thursday evening, because I woke up in time to whiz down to the pharmacy, pick my prescription up. And I took that before I went to bed, which was fine, except it made me feel very peculiar. I felt almost sick. I felt overly full. I had a headache. My body was tingling and shaking. And I had a really, really rubbish night's sleep. And I mean rubbish. I kept waking up, going to sleep, waking up, going to sleep. I woke up with a stinking headache. But I know these can be some of the side effects of that particular medication. So I didn't panic or worry about it. I knew it was likely to happen. I didn't expect it to be so intense. But then if I have a reaction to medication, it can be quite intense. And that one certainly was. And I had a headache for much of yesterday until late afternoon, and I couldn't pull words together or think until late afternoon. And I just knew that I wouldn't be able to speak coherently or, do anything. I do know even doing videos will drain my mind a bit, but I love doing them. And I love trying to, inspire, to encourage, to help people, to look at things in a different way. And it really does make me really, it's something I really do look forward to doing when I can. And so I was a bit sad in many ways that I missed the couple of days, but I also know that I have to look after myself. And today, although I took the medication again last night, I slept better, still had that headachiness, still had the icky sickiness and the lack of appetite. That went when I had some breakfast, which was good. But, it's just, I like that one. I'm looking for, I've got some stencils here, and I think I'm going to use this one. I quite like that, although that one's nice as well. Don't want wood. Ooh, that one's interesting. That one. Just grabbing them at random, just looking through them. I don't want bricks and things. Ooh, that's interesting with all the bubbly things on. That I think might not go because we've got two organic-y tangles here. And oh, look at that. Don't know if you can see, it's all sort of like ammonites. Oh, thank you, Oz. I do my best. I think everybody's got it in them to be creative. It's just finding out how you like to be creative. I still haven't found the colouring medium that really works for me. And I've been playing with watercolours, and I used some of my watercolour markers recently. And there's just something about them that doesn't work for me. And I thought, hang on, looking back in a sketchbook, and I saw these delicately coloured drawings I'd done there, albeit with pencil outlines, which helped, quite pastel colours. I thought, watercolour pencils. So I used them this morning. I thought, yeah, I really like these. So I may completely have to put everything to one side. The problem is I do like markers as well, but I really have to be in the mood for markers. Right, I think I'm going to use this one here, simply because I can. Ooh. Now then, strength to open these rings, I tell you. But I'm going to put the same pattern on all of these. I'm not gonna stress myself about it. And I'm going to use, I was going to use some brown, but let me get those pastels out again. Where did I put them? I got them out, did I? Oh, there. Because this one, I've got that weathered wood on here. So let me get a bluey or greyish coloured. Bluey grey would do, a grey. That's it. These are just makeup brushes that happen to be colour coded. You can buy these, really, shouldn't be saying this, or perhaps I can. If this is something you'd like to do, these are inexpensive stencils from Amazon. And this just gives a very subtle background texture. I don't want anything that's going to overtake my drawings. I just fancy having something that's not quite plain. Just turn it around so perhaps these go in a slightly different direction. And perhaps just a little bit somewhere down here, like so. So I've got some texture on there, which is nice. This one, oops, I want to use that Victorian velvet. So let me get a pinky coloured one of these. I bought them like this because they were inexpensive. They weren't a brand named, as in brand named company that makes things for crafters and card makers and so on, because they're exactly the same product basically, but they're just not brand marked. And there's nothing wrong in that. And I find them a good enough quality for what I want to use them for, to be honest, which is just backgrounds behind things occasionally. And they work well enough. I could use the cut and dry foam, except it doesn't really work very well with these. So I'll add a little bit there. And perhaps just a little bit on the corner here. And yes, I still have the weathered wood on here. And yes, I most probably included some of the weather wood in here, but it's fine. And that's worked quite nicely. I like that one. I like the pink there. The pink on that green has eased the green back that little bit. And on this one, I am going to use a brown. I'm going to use the tea dye. See, I got other distress inks out, didn't I? Didn't use them. But I'm going to use the tea dye here, because I just think that would work nicely. There we go. My patches are coming out fairly square, not deliberately, but that's because how it's working out. That one's a bit less square, but I'm trying to keep these sort of vaguely vertical, I suppose. A little bit up here as well. And that's all done. I've got 3 papers prepared for today, which makes me quite happy. Do you know that? It does. So let me just move these out the way a moment so I've got space. That I'll pop over here with the stencils I used, I hope. Yeah, there. Doesn't need a clean, but I will clean it. Otherwise I'll end up with mucky fingers, but I don't have to clean it straight away. If I was using something like acrylic inks or gesso or something like that, then yes, I would clean it up straight away. But I'm not today. So I'll put the others out the way. Okay, glasses. When I get my glasses on, it's time for serious work-ish. So I'm going to use a pencil, and I'm going to draw pencil borders in here. The same, about half an inch, which is, I don't know how many centimetres. I'll work it out in a moment for you. I'm old enough that I start to be taught imperial when I started school, and then by the time I was heading off to secondary school, it was all, I think before then, we were converting to the metric system in the UK, and metric makes a lot more sense. Okay, so let's try it that way. No, how am I going to do it? That'll do. I can work it out from here. So about 1 1/4, 1.25 centimeters. So I've got that there just as a guide. I am going to use an 03 pen, and I am just going to draw along these lines. Yes, I could have drawn them with the ruler, but me and pens and rulers never get along. It doesn't matter how I use them, I still manage to streak ink everywhere. Smudge it, and I'm not prepared to do that on these. Yes, it is a sketchbook, but I still want to keep things nice. So to go back to my quandary the last couple of days, so yesterday was pretty much a washout. I couldn't do anything much till mid-afternoon, and then I needed a shower, and then I needed to go. I didn't go to the, there were things happening in the evening that I needed to attend, so I needed to be sorted out. Yes, I had a bath yesterday. I had some deliveries as well. It's delivery city here, honestly. And I know that in this corner I'm going to put the day, so it's day 3, fancy 3. And then I'm just going to use my ruler again, just to give me some parallel lines that I can write in what the tangle is and who designed it, kind of. So I put 3 lines in, because 2 of them will be the top and bottom for the capitals of the name, which is Amplion, I think it is. Just very simple letters today. I mean, I'm warming up drawing, and then next to it I'm going to put the name of the person who deconstructed it, which is Nina. Dreher-Goeddertz. Sorry if I've mangled your name, Nina. You see this? And I hope I've spelt it right. Yeah, 2 Ds. I also thought, as I knew I had quite a bit of filming to do today, as in it'll be quite a long one because I've got 3 tangles to do, that I would be better off doing a live rather than recording it and trying to upload it on a Saturday when it seems, I don't know whether it's the internet or just YouTube is busy, but it is what it is. So I thought that would be best, and I know everybody can catch up with the live later on. It remains on my channel. I'll add some more description and information to the description, so I can put the link to where you can find the downloadable PDF for all the tangles, and they've also got links in them to the deconstruction. You just have to click on the name of the tangle, I think it is, in the little examples are given, and to 7F5R challenge Facebook group and things like that, as well as information about where else you can find me on interwebs and various other stuff. And I will monetize it then, because every little helps. Okay, so Ampleon is an interesting tangle. that to begin with, I found, what am I doing here? Yeah, it's one of those ones. And I thought, I just can't seem to get this as I would like. So what I eventually worked out was if I start with a kind of square, like so, and I divide it into 4 with not 4 sections, one with, I think, a little bit less at the top. It's just a rough guide. It will help me keep things vaguely symmetrical. It's never going to be perfect. And this starts with 2 crescent moons at the base. So I'm putting them either side of the central line. I'm making them quite big because I quite like crescent moons, like so. And then from the center up, I want to get a muka that comes over to around this cross piece. So where this meets in the middle there. And I like to put a nice little cute spiral in my muka with some shadow on it and at the bottom, because it makes it look like we've got this spiraling up a bit like a scroll. And then I can just join this on back there, bit of inky glue, and that's my first one done. And then I can do my best to actually do the same on the other side. It's not going to be identical because I'm not a copy machine, but it'd be close enough that I'll be comfortable with it. I know that in the realms of Zentangle, pencils aren't used for such things, but I'm also a pragmatist, a realist, and in my own personal work I use pencils a lot for sketching in where I want things, the size of them and so on. And this is one way I find this the easiest to do. Then with this, the next thing you do is you do some curves here. Again, they're sort of like letter C's. They don't start right at the edge. I move mine a little bit further back in, bring them down to the middle and meet up, and again, and again. And then you have this little space here, and this is where you put a point. Look at that, I even put this in. I should have put a line here at the bottom once I've drawn that one. I'll do that in others because I'm bound to use the same construction. And then I'm going to pop that there, like so, and I'm just going to ink this in. But as this is sketchbook work, as this is tangles, as this is exploring a pattern, exploring a way of constructing a tangle or a pattern, then I'm not worried if it's not perfect, because this is just going to be a page full of examples. And so I learn as I go is that I should have done this. So I'm going to put a note to myself in pencil with an arrow going, do this, do this. And then I'll be able to make them the same size. I feel a bit like a sculptor. You know, the people who used to sculpt or still do sculpt all the beautiful things on churches and abbeys and other ornate buildings, and how they map out the shapes they want to create in the stone in this kind of way. Except I'm adding ink, whereas they'd be taking stone away. So it's, you know, it's just, we're an additive. Drawing is an additive art, whereas sculpting is a subtractive. Yeah. Sculpting in clay can be additive. It can also be subtract. I'm getting myself confused here. So on we go. So that's the, oh, not quite, because there then needs to be some little mukas that come down around here. I'm not putting mine inside the crescent moon. I just like them as they are, where they are. And I've used the size of the crescents crescent moons, not the tangle pattern crescent moon, but the crescent moons here. And that could have been a bit, but it's fine. It's going to be a different shape and curve because this is lower. But that's basically Amplion. As the step out was, I think. I'm not going to guarantee it was. Wait until you see another tangle, because I did spend some time playing with some tangles to come yesterday. And I was thinking, I don't understand this step out. I can't see how it works. I've tried doing it again and again and again, and my head just does not compute this. So let me have a bigger look at it. And I go, oh, that's easy when I look at it and do it a different way. Yeah, sometimes that's what it takes, honestly. So let's have a look at some others. So the next one I'm going to draw in a similar way, but I am going to make this a bit taller and thinner just for fun. Again, I'm just going to divide this like so. I am going to put this here, and we are going to have a line somewhere here. I'm going to have these quite low down, but I'm going to have my mucas inside here, I think. So I'm going to start with my crescent moons again. Nice and big chunky ones, because why not? There we go. 2 crescent moons. Well, I tell you what I like to do with this as well. And I'll do it on this one, which isn't traditional, or the original way. So I like to put the stems poking out at the bottom. And it's really quite nice if you aura these and add another one, as if there's another stem there. So you get a different shape at the bottom. I like that. That's just my personal preference. Okay, so I'm actually going to take my mucas almost to the top, actually, because I've got the space. But I am going to use that dotted line for the size of them. So I'm just going to go there for that one. I'm going to move my paper around so I can draw the other one more easily. Now, although this one might not be exactly the same as the other, I've got the height of them and the base of them are almost exactly the same place. So this won't look quite as wonky as this one does. This one looks like it's drunk, like the sculptor had several bottles of beer before he picked his hammer and chisel up, or mallet and chisel. This one looks like somebody's had, maybe a couple of cups of coffee with a few wobbly lines. Okay, then what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to start here and I'm going to draw this down, but I'm not going to connect it in the base. I'm going to leave it, and I'm just going to aura around like that. Then I'm going to do it again, like so. Do I want to do it another time? No, I don't think I will. But I'm not going to start at the top for this. I'm going to, for the little pointy bit on the top, I'm going to start a little bit lower down, so I get a slightly different kind of shape, variation there. And then on the top here, I'm going to put a little bead, a little finial. Okay. I'm not going to do the mucas around here. Instead, I'm just going to put a ball inside these. I'm going to join the horns of the crescent moon to them. And then at the bottom, or here, I am going to add another aura, and maybe another one. So I'll have a central area, and I'll have 1, 2, 3 on either side. And I'm going to make these, well, actually, it looks like I'm just going to have 2 on either side. But either way, nobody's going to count. So I've got this one then, which I rather like. I like the empty space here for lots of reasons. But it's basically the same idea. same construction, just slight variations. And what I could do is I could actually, let's have a look. I'll do it on one side because perhaps I can get a nice shape. That actually works nicely, where I've got that coming from behind the muka. So I've got one going around to the bottom of the ball, and then another one that shadows and then just goes towards the middle, almost like we've got a hand or something coming to support that, to stop it falling out of the moon. Obviously, the sculptor was very drunk. Okay, well, not very drunk, sensible. And then here, there's just something here that's bugging me, and I just think I'm going to do that just to nestle that in. So it's the same kind of idea, but a different variation. I've just made it longer. I've put a ball in the crescent moon, and then I've drawn things differently here. At the top, I've left a space between the point here and these lines. And then I've nested lines behind. What I could have done, if I thought, was to add the next space, put another one there, and on the top a third one. So we've got volume going around, something that creates some volume. But I'm not going to do that here and now. And I do like this little thing at the bottom. Now, if I'd made this longer, I could have got the third one in, but perhaps I can just pop it in here, just that tiny little nod to something being there. Yeah, how's that? How does that work for us? I think that works nicely. Okay, so how about if I do one that's broader? Oh yeah, we're going to do a broader one. That's going to be interesting. I'm going to have it about this wide. Perhaps I'm going to actually need it split into thirds, actually. So it's going to be broader but taller. And again, I'm going to use the same idea. But here, instead of having my crescent moons flat, I'm going to actually tilt them quite a bit. Like so. And underneath, I'm going to put something that could be like a gem or a jewel if you wish. Just something like that. Again, a different way of finishing this off at the bottom rather than just leaving it open. I guess it depends how you're going to put these together. If you're going to arrange them in a circle, then perhaps you wouldn't want this at the bottom, or perhaps you would. It's entirely your choice as to how things are brought together. Okay, so I am going to do some muka. Again, I'm going to bring them down here, but I'm going to make them much more delicate at the end, because that gives a different feel as well. And again, I'm just going to turn my paper. Got that a little bit on the flat, you know, as in straight there. I'm drawing in a way that isn't my natural way of drawing there. So that's the same basic, you know, we've got the crescent moons, the two mukas. What do we do with the rest? So for this, I am going to put something in here, but it's not going to be a muka. I'm putting a leaf in. Now, what I want you to know is I might have my sketchbook beside me with the variations I've already done, but I'm actually altering things or changing things on the fly. This wasn't here, and this was another muka. But I thought a leaf here would be quite nice. It's different. I should have put a line in there to help me get to the bottom, but it's fine, you know, in the same place. Now on this side, I'm going to do something quite different. I'm going to go up to a point. So I'm going to draw a letter C shape. And I'm going to come back down to the bottom, like so. And then I'm going to do the same here from this point and this point. I'm going to extend it to make that C shape. And I'm going to go down like this. And then this is the fun bit. I'm going to go from where these lines are up to the top. Definitely drawing in the wrong direction there. I'm then going to aura it. I'm going to put some inky glue in. As I am in all areas, I'm just going to make this line thicker here, just to disguise my mis-ink. I mis-inked this. Put some pen there as well. Sorry, my glasses keep bashing the camera. And then what I'm going to do here is I am going to put a little arc there, like a semicircle. Well, it's not quite a semicircle, but you know what I mean. And another one. I'm actually going to put 2 more and leave a gap between them. It's not perfect, but I'm going to turn this on this side, because I'm going to start. I've got the central line here, and I'm just going to start by adding lines that are curved. I'm going to add a third one there and there. And then we have that, which is, again, something that is different, but it's still got the same features. If you think about it, this is still this shape. It's just made bigger and has some details put in it. Here, I've still got 2 mukas, kind of, but instead of having a circular end, I've got leafy ends here. In fact, I could do leaves here as well. I'll show you how to draw that leaf. So I'll do that here on the side, because I haven't got enough space here for another Amplion. So what you do is you go up and you make a little hook on the end. So curve, so it's like an upside down letter J, a little curve at the top. You come back with a semicircle and arc. Then, and that's my leaf. And that's these here. Practice it, see what kinds of shapes of curves you like, because you can have one that's perfectly symmetrical, or one that where the base of the curve is lower down. So there's all kinds of things you can do. And this can actually go in before it comes out. That makes quite a nice little S bend in it. So we've got these here. Okay, what about some others then? Okay, I thought, well, the crescent moons are quite nice, but what else can we do? So I thought about, what could I have here instead? So one thing I thought of was a heart instead, because I do rather like hearts. Again, I'm going to just aura it, so I've got space to do other things with. I'm going to draw a central line here, because I'll want to use that to guide me. Ooh, it's a bit wonky compared to the page. That's the problem of having this texture in the background, but it'll be fine, even if it is wonky compared to the page, as long as it's not wonky compared to itself. And then I'm just going to put some lines in there. So what I'm going to do with this one is something a little bit different. Quite a bit different, really. And instead of drawing things that are very smooth, I'm going to go like this. I'm going to go up here, up there, and then I can do the same on the other side, like so. Yeah, I know. I'm going to do a curve in here, but I'm not going to connect it back. And then I'm going to go back, around, and I'm going to put that dark area inside. Then I'm going to bring this back and down. So again, I can do the same here. Because I mirrored these at the start, it actually looks very angry at the moment, doesn't it? It won't for long though. Okay, so in the middle here, I am going to put, actually I'm going to make it even angrier looking. At the top, I'm going to put that kind of shape in. We've still got that point at the top, but I've put straight lines in here instead of the curved. It looks more like a crystal, if you like. And then I'm going to go up and down, up and down. And I'm bringing these lines back so they're just a little bit apart there. Again, up and down, up and down. And I can keep doing this until it meets back there. But I'm going to just do it with a pointy bit there. And then what do we do here to connect these? I just think I'm going to just do shapes like that. And then at the bottom here, I'm going, that hopefully will fit there, and I can just have these perhaps flaring out. And we could, if we wished, have another one on the outside. Still looks like a scary face. Like so. And then I'm going to put little teardrops on the tops of each of these points, trying to make sure the central part of them goes through either the center of the shape, like here. I didn't have space to put it in properly, but you get the idea. Or the line that is the central point there. Something a bit different. And just to help, just going to put a couple of things in here just to, that'll be okay. And still looks like angry eyes, but just something different, perhaps a different way of doing things. If I go back to that heart shape again, because I do love myself a heart. Now, instead of awing all the way around here, I'm going to aura. Oh, my light's gone off. Pressed the wrong button, that's why. Come on then. That's all right. We'll be okay. I'm just auraing it like this. Hello, everybody who's joined. I'm sorry, I'm not paying attention to you. The chat is open if you wish to chat. If you've never been to my channel before, you are most welcome. If you like what you see, please consider subscribing. I'm in awe of how many people have joined in the past couple of weeks since I've been posting to my channel again. I'm not going through my history of having a tough year and a half or so in many ways with different things, but I'm here. And the last couple of days I was missing because new medication floored me, and being overwhelmed, sensory overwhelm in a Welsh class, too many voices at once, me trying to pay attention and trying to speak and hear myself, and it's just too much. It's too much. So with this one, I'm going to do things a little bit differently again. So I'm not doing mukas. I'm going to do these, which I think are kind of flux shapes in Zentangle. Somebody will tell me if I'm wrong, I'm sure. So I've got two there. This is going to look a little bit like a fountain. And I'm just going to mirror them until I close that gap. In this case, I've just got 3 in there. Yep, that'll do. And then at the top here, I'm going to fill it with a drop. I'm going to put a little bead on there. and then a little crosshatch. Not crosshatch, what do you call them? Teardrop. Why did I say crosshatch? I don't know. Okay, so that's nice, but what about the bottom? So in the bottom, I'm going to do something that's like this, perhaps. And I'll repeat that motif on the top. That would make quite a nice brooch. And I think here I do need perhaps some beads just there. It does look a lot more like jewellery, doesn't it? I mean, the others would make quite nice pieces of jewellery, I guess. That one's a bit scary, though. But you never know, do you, until you try things. So I'm going to use a diamond here now. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put a spiral that fills that curve in there. And if you look, as I've come back, I've come really close to the top, but I've left a bigger gap at the bottom. And that lends some volume to this, which you can bring out with shading. So I'm going to do the same thing where I start to go out, back down, down and around. Not identical because it's not going to happen today. What I'm going to do at the bottom here, though, is I am going to not put a muka, but I'm going to put a double spiral, you know, a spiral in. So I'm going around in a spiral, and then instead of going in on itself until it disappears into its own existence, I'm going to go around like that. So it looks more like frond-like. And then the bottom here, I'm not sure what I want to do, but I know I want something here to fill this gap in. So I am just going to put that, and then perhaps that kind of shape would work. So a little bead in that kind of shape. But then you've also got this to do something with. If all else fails, if you don't know what else to do, shove an aura in it. I never knew that's what it's called. Well, Zentangle call it that. Just put a border in, double the line. And then at the top here, I'm going to do this kind of thing again. Perhaps to there. So I'm going to start about the same place on this side and just bring it over, up a little bit and over. This is not my usual way of drawing these, I have to say. But there we go. And then we've got this shape at the top, so why not do that? I'm going to aura it in the same way I did this here. And again, for consistency, I'm going to put a bead there and one of those there. So it's the same idea, but it is just using different things. Well, I've got space for one more. I know what I'm going to do. So at the bottom, I'm going to draw. I've got two C shapes there, sorry, and I've joined them together with some other C shapes. So I make a kind of band. So what I'm going to do above this at a point, I'm going to say there, is I'm going to go outwards. I'm going to draw a muka, and I'm going to bring that back down to here. And I'm going to do the same coming out the other side. About the same size there. There we go. Then with this, I'm going to create almost like little triangles there. My line is slightly curved, it's not straight, and I'm going to fill it in with black. So it looks like, and I'm going to draw that line down. I could have done that to begin with, couldn't I? So I'm going to create it So it looks like I've got 2 stems there. And then I can perhaps add something like this there, or just simple auras as I've done. So these are kind of mini hens there. And the top here, because I've got that pointy end, I just think it'll be lovely to have a heart in, like so. And I will just fill that in. And that's all of my variations that I can fit in on the page. I'll show you the page in my sketchbook so you can see I've got many more variations here than I've shown you. That's kind of you to say, Oz Tangle. I've got more variations here than I've shown you, and some of the ones I've shown you aren't even on this page. Once you start working in this way, it's amazing how many things will happen with you and how you can change things just simply. And this one is kind of like, it's kind of like this one, but it's not the same. Yet it's still got crescent moons in there. I just decided to use that idea and see how to fill it in. In fact, this one, this one needs something here, and I think I'm just going to put some upside downy mucas in there, so it just feels like it's finished, it's held in place. It's like this is properly supported now, and I could do the same here. That feels better. And I say feel, I don't know why I say feel, but I do. And I could, if I wanted to, add some auras here, which kind of join back with the stem, but then reappear at the bottom, because who says they can't do that? Perhaps just tucking behind where we can't see them and coming out at the bottom. So those are those. Right, let me pop that to one side. I may not do any shading or anything today because, you know, time and everything else. I'll change the title of the video once it's finished, once I can. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing here. Let me just move that there. Look at this. These are variations on Feist by Stephanie Jennifer. Look at that, tons of them. And even though a lot of them don't look like they were formed in the same way, they have been. So let me do my borders. About 1/2 inch, 1.25 centimetre border. I find T-squares particularly useful. This one is epic because it's got scales here, which means instead of having to measure, put a dot, line your ruler up, you can do it directly with the ruler, the size of the spacing you need, which makes me very happy. And yes, I can do it by centimetres if I wish. It's just this seems the most natural way. And I am going to, while I've still got the ruler out, let's put these guidelines in for I'm not measuring these, they're going to be different on each page, but they're good enough. That's all I'm saying. So this is day 4, so I'll put a number 4 here. Oh, let's go Roman numeral, is it? Yes, I know it looks like TV, but I'm doing that because I can. There we go, downstrokes thickened. That'll work nicely. So this is Feist. Feist, and it's by now Stephanie Jennifer of 7F5R Challenge is the one that has organised this challenge. So I'll put the information in the description when I edit it. Stefan E. This is my favourite hand lettering kind of font. Looks like an old typewriter. Out of practice with it though. I do tend to favour old-fashioned typewriter fonts. I try to get away from it, Jen. You know, in my images for social media and so on. But I do love them. There you are, Feist by Stephanie Jennifer, CZT. Need to put the CZT in, don't we? No, I'm not a CZT. No, I'm not teaching Zentangle. I'm just taking part in a challenge. Just so happens that the patterns are all Zentangle patterns. And it's a good excuse for me to share variations on a theme with you. So this is another organic tangle. And the next one's another organic tangle. And the next one after. There's a lot of organic tangles in this year's challenge, which is fine. So this actually starts off kind of in the same, it starts off with a little curvy diamond shape like so. And then from that, you actually draw something that looks like a petal. And then another petal around it. Now, I'm going to just aura this for now, but I think that Stephanie Jennifer puts an extra one in there, but I'm going to do that extra petal by adding it in like that, because that just makes sense to me. It does look like a strange bird. It really does. I'm so tempted to put eyes in it, but it is supposed to be a flower. So I'm going to add perhaps a couple of dots there, perhaps a couple of dots here, and perhaps little lines to suggest, you know, pollen and so on. So I'll do the variation that I've seen Stephanie Jennifer's. Not sure she puts that in, mind you, but I do. And I also like to make these more petal shaped than rounded. And I'm going to start, instead of at the base, I'm going to start a little way up. I'm not going all the way to the middle. I'm going to try and leave a gap that's equidistant on each side, and then I can put an extra bit of that on. Now it looks like a strange bird wearing glasses. Once you see it, you can't forget it. It's like the other one I've just done. It's going to end up looking like, actually that might be better if I did put these in a bit more like, there we are, something weird going on there. I do think it helps if we put some leaves in of some kind. So I'm going to put, is that flux? And perhaps I'm going to put a little ball and maybe a little stem. Again, ball and the stem, just to suggest that it is a flower. I know. And again, another little leaf, and it looks more flowery then. I think it's just the way my head works. I'll tell you what I also think helps here is if you just put, no, it doesn't. Now it makes it look even more like an angry bird. But just to help with the idea that we might have petals. I could be wrong. I got this far and I tried some other things out, and I'll show you just one more that's similar to this, because this I've got tons of to choose from. Was just, I drew the bigger version in first, like so. kept the lines quite straight there. And then I drew here like this. I'm not sure that helps. Like that, and a bit like that. I thought it helped, but I can still see that bird now I've seen it. Isn't it maddening? Well, I find it maddening. There we go. So we've got something going on here. There we are. So I thought about how can I make this look less like a bird. I'm not going to say I've succeeded, but one thing I did was to drop this down and turn this into a heart. And I've also connected it to that bit in the middle. I think that is where part of the problems lie. So this really does look more like a flower than it did. And again, I'm going to take this and I'm going to create a heart, a bit of a lopsided one because I don't want the centers to stack, but I'm going to leave a gap there so I can put another heart tucked in behind them. And I now think that looks a bit more like a flower. That's just my point of view. And I did like to pop something like this here, almost like we've got a stamen there, and perhaps here and there as well. And then we're getting somewhere, in my mind anyway. That's how it feels. All right. So it's a lovely pattern, but I just can't get it out of my head that it looks like a bird. Colour and shading may help, but I'm not going to hold my breath on that one with me. Okay, let's do another variation, which is slightly different. It's the same but different, if you know what I mean. And this one, I'm going to start by drawing the inner hearts here. And then I'm going to aura them. Then I'm going to draw an inner heart here, an inner heart here, and an inner heart here. And then I'm going to draw them, or aura them rather. Now this felt kind of William Morris-like, not Morrissey as in the singer from the Smiths from the 80s, but William Morris, arts and crafts bloke, you know. So I've looked at his patterns and spent time working out how he drew them and using them for inspiration. So that sort of like is embedded in my mind. And I tend to look at things from that point of view. And I do like this more. I almost feel, though, that we need to have some extra blooms or extra petals down here, which again is doable because we've got the space. And that means then I've got space here and here for some other petals just to complete the outer edge. And now that looks a bit more like a carnation. I'm going to put one of my strange stems in because I haven't drawn these for a while. I like segmented stems with knobbly bits. They give you an excuse to draw leaves in without feeling you have to leave a gap for them. There we go. Nice little leaves. So it feels almost carnation-y. Part of me actually wants to put some down here, but I'm not quite sure how that would. Actually, let's have a look. So I put one here, not quite central, but perhaps going underneath. This one's going to go behind the leaf though, which is fine. And there, that's it. We've completed the circle. So it now looks like a full flower. I wonder if I could do that with these others. I'm not sure. Let's have a look though, because that would go back there. That would go back there. This one would perhaps come around like so, perhaps like so. So that creates a fuller flower, doesn't it? It's not quite the same, but, you know, perhaps I can make it feel the same if I add an aura to those, and perhaps one there, and the same here. It's just tying things together. It's making them feel, oops, they belong. So this would need an aura as well, wouldn't it? Yeah, I've overspilled my line there a bit. I don't know. Perhaps that's why it feels unnatural to me in some ways, but you know, it's not meant to be like a real flower, but it's interesting. Okay, so let's try a slightly different version, because this one I think works. Where was I looking at? I'm going to bring two lobes of a petal down there, and then one like that, and then I can just pop one in there, one in there, and Bob's your uncle, or Sally's your aunt. It's not actually what I said, trust me. And then perhaps we can just put another one there. Has a little leaf, and then we've got that. So that actually works. I like that one. I prefer that. That's me though. Okay. So there are many variations you could do on this one. So another one would be, okie dokes. So 3 lobes again. And this time starting somewhere halfway along and echoing it. So it looks like we've got another petal behind it. And perhaps this time, just to add something inside, I'm just going to put some little loops. And that would work, I guess. Let's give it a stem. Now it looks more like a tree. My mind. Yes, I know. Okay, so what about other things? Because if I look at this and I think about how it's been constructed, in all cases, we've got some kind of a base. So I'm going to draw this base a little bit differently, where I'm going to start with this on the top, which is this shape here, but I'm going to draw it down into a kind of stem. And then everything else is going to appear from this top. And instead of drawing these as single lines or simple patterns, how about if we draw from the center here, looping petals that come off at angles until they follow the line of that leaf there. Again, I'll do the same here in the hopes that my hand isn't in the way. It looks very different, and I don't feel the need to put anything behind them. That is a flower or a bird or a puffy thing or whatever you'd like to call it. But that is using the same kinds of ideas, but just looking at the shapes that we've used to hang things off or to attach things to. So I like that. So again, let's do this shape. Looks like a seagull flying or a bird. A very wide letter V. And perhaps this time I'm going to put a circle there. And let's see what happens if I draw petals off this. Wider this time. With the same idea of stopping them when I get to that leaf. So I like that. That's nice as well. But again, it's got the same principles, kind of. Okay. So what about I do this shape, but I turn it into a heart, but still draw the stem in? Well, I could add I could add petals that are heart-shaped and so on. What I think I'm going to do here is I'm going to add things like dandelion seeds, I suppose, where we've got lots of these little bits sticking out, like so, and perhaps one that just bends downwards because it's very heavy and tired. Still the same kind of idea. I'm sorry, I keep banging my table. My camera wobbles. Oh, gosh. Hello, KB. Yes, I understand what you're saying about them looking like jewellery or metalwork. I would love to be a jeweller, a silversmith, but unfortunately I just don't have the ability to do so. I had silversmithing. I did some silversmithing workshops and I was a nightmare. I'm a chemist, I'm a scientist, and yet fire scares me. I hate Bunsen burners, and the flame you have to use with metal is even hotter, and you're using very hot things, and I was a nightmare. I couldn't solder to save my life. I think the tutor did more of the work for me than anything. I designed what I wanted. I cut the bits out badly, but we got it made. But he had to do a lot of it for me because I was just a nightmare. Are you near Mount Rainier? Feist is a unique challenge for sure. I found the previous one a bit of a challenge too. The previous one being, where did I put it? There, Amplion. But I made quite a few variations on that, and I've got more in my sketchbook. These are the ones that I filled this page in to go with the challenge. But with all of these, once you understand, I think, how things are put together, which part supports other bits, what kinds of shapes you've got, then it's easy enough to alter things and to change things, or to not change them exactly, but to use this as a springboard to go on to other things, as you will see. Let me go back to this kind of shape, because this was an interesting shape for me as well. Just looking, where am I going? I'm actually going to draw a line off the top here, and I'm going to put a seed at the top. You're going, what? I know. But what I'm going to do is do I want to start at the bottom? I am going to start at the bottom, and I'm going to start at the bottom with some U shapes here. And I'm going to continue adding U shapes here. I'm going to try and keep them fairly large. I don't want them to actually shrink away to nothing before I get to the top, and I've messed that one up. I'll just keep going. And I now have something that looks like a wheat of ear. An ear of wheat, even. Almost. So that was interesting because I got those lobes on, and I think, well, what happens? In fact, perhaps the best way to draw that actually is I look at that is I've drawn a heart shape. So I'm going to put another heart shape here, and another one, and another one. And if I draw in, I'll pop this at the bottom, pop that there. And if I draw in the shape of the spike I want with pencil, then I can use that to keep everything sort of fitting together. This is why I like pencils. They're magic. They help with working out how things work. I do struggle with nesting things and getting them to decrease in size in a kind of way that is satisfying. But there, I've done that with very little effort in comparison to the other two. And I've got something that looks a bit more, well, I'm not going to say it looks like an ear, a wheat ear, but it's something that could be, thought of as such, I guess. So that works nicely. And of course, something else that can be done in a similar way. Again, I'm starting off with that kind of shape, putting the stem on. And I am going to, again, go that far up. But I'm going to go out, but I'm going to split this up into 3 sections. Yes, I know there is a band here, but I'm going to draw all of these little beads or seeds or whatever in this kind of way, next to one another. And again, it just helps me to keep to the shape I'd like in the space I'd like it in. Now this is like the it's like a Zentangle pattern, isn't it? Bronx spear, kind of, but perhaps with a bit more deliberation and less just going with it. Yeah, they are really, really good brain exercises, creative exercises. They exercise the creative part of your brain. And I think they also give you confidence in deciding, well, that's what I want to do. This is how I want it to be. Because art should be your expression of yourself, as far as I'm concerned, because it is part of you. Yes, we can use it for meditation. Yes, we can use it for de-stressing. But I find doing things like this, where it's almost like a challenge, is to find all of these different ways of drawing something that's based on the same principles, I suppose, same starting principles, and seeing where it leads, what you can do with it. And it can lead to some really interesting and unexpected destinations. Who'd have thought I'd have got from there to there? Except you can see we're already starting to nest things in this kind of way. It's just an extension of it. It's a difference in, rather than starting outside the edge and finishing at the top, we're using that edge to go and create that shape. The same here. We've got that holding on to it for grim life. In fact, I think that needs a bit more support. So we'll just pop something like that on there to make sure those aren't going to roll off and brain some little mouse thurtling around underneath it. But it's, you come up with things. And even though this may not be perfect, you get a finer pen. I've got an O2 that should still be quite fine. Just by adding little things here. Something like this really does just add something to it, some rhythm to it, something extra to it. And the same here. Just simple loops inside, which can be darkened or coloured in. And things like adding almost like little leaves here on the outside. That extra little bit of line in there just adds something to it and starts to bring it to life. Yeah, it could look like a lupin. I know what you mean, Oz. And, some of them are very stylized versions. I mean, I said this has reminded me of a carnation. That was that one, wasn't it, before I added the extra hearts inside, or perhaps still it does. These are sort of like a bit like a daisy-ish, like an aster or something, but just part of the flower. And you'd see stylized flowers like this in medieval manuscripts, in William Morris's work, Arts and Crafts and so on. And then again in Art Nouveau. And stylizing nature was something that was very much done. And there's something delightful about taking the essence of what something is and making it it makes it simple, a simple design, and yet still has that power to convey, well, I know what that flower is, it's this or it's that, or I know what that is, it's this or it's that. And it was something as a scientist and a science teacher I delighted in, because science is all about, when you're a scientist, you're reporting back information, you're showing what you did in an experiment, you're showing what you've observed. If you're drawing scientific illustrations in that kind of way, what you've observed, what you've seen, how you identified something, the parts of a flower as you take it to pieces and you draw every part. It's more about getting the basic shapes in, the basic details in, than it is to get an artistic representation or a photographic representation. If you want a photograph, you can take a photograph. But by drawing and observing, you're learning more about what it looks like, what it's made of, what's there, how things connect one to another. And to be able to take that essence and put it into a simple drawing and into a set of steps that other people can follow is something that is both easy and difficult. It's one of those things. I can draw from observation. I can draw from observation if I have a single leaf, a single flower, something, an element of something that catches my eye. But if you ask me to draw a landscape, it ends up looking like various shades of froth, because I see everything. I cannot take all of that information that's coming into my eyes and simplify it down. My brain doesn't work on that. If I've got something smaller, my brain works that way, it can simplify things. I can focus on that and just take the essence out. And now I've just said that, I understand something more about myself. So thank you for listening. It's a never-ending discovery. And I've said this before, that I started this channel as a way for me to learn more about myself, to get me to talk about things, because it's by talking about things I get an understanding as well when I'm having to explain myself to somebody else. And, to begin with, it was just YouTube, and then it was a couple of people, and now it's loads. And it's so lovely when, like Oz, thank you so much. It's lovely when people say, I really help you, I've inspired you, or you found this really useful, because as a teacher, I should share, help people understand, to reach their potential. And if I can help you in one little step on the way, I've done a good thing. If I inspire you to give it a go, I've done a good thing. If I inspire you to say, well, I like that, but I'm not going to draw it like Angela because I'm not Angela, I've done an excellent thing, because you're not me. Your hand-eye coordination, your muscle memory, the way your muscles work, the way you hold your pen, what pens you decide you like, and paper and so on, it's all going to affect how you draw. And it also depends how often you practice drawing. And I've been drawing like this all my life, really. Even when I look back to what I remember of primary school, that's the first kind of school we have here in the UK. When I was little, we started school at 5 years old, and basically you started fairly formal education, but it was still fun. It was play as well. And things like learning the alphabet, you did it by how to draw the letters by drawing a picture. The teacher led you. I found it fun because it was creative, because I already knew my letters by the time I started school. It's one good thing my mother did. I think she had to keep me busy and my mind busy an awful lot. But I'm a very curious child. What's this? What's that? Wanted to know things. But it's practice. It's finding your voice, your style, the way that you draw, what makes you happy. And that's why I like doing these variations so much. And the Zentangle challenges have always been exactly that, because sometimes I'm not inspired at all by the pattern. Ambler was one of those. But I went with it. I made myself do it. And I came out with some variations that I could live with. If I go back to my other book, this is the beauty of the live, isn't it? That I can pop in and out. Where's my book? Where is it? It's here somewhere. There. This is the beauty of doing a live, because I feel like I've got as much time as I want, because YouTube won't turn me off, and you can stay for as long or as little as you like. Ambler really didn't inspire me, but I forced myself to look at different things, different ways of doing it. And in fact, since I've been doing the challenges, I think, I could do it that way. That'll be fun. Oh, I've forgotten about that. Oh, I could do that. And going back and adding things and working. Same here with Mary Shell. What I did, this is one I did with, I won't say unwell. I've been affected by lack of sleep, being overwhelmed in a Welsh class, not being able to focus, being exhausted by it, and also by new medication I'm taking, which has caused me no ends of problems in just 2 days. But it will ease itself off. I know that. Better today after taking the tablet last night. Yesterday it was grim. I couldn't think until mid-afternoon. I had a headache to end headaches almost. But today not so, which is a good thing. And I slept through the night, which I didn't the night before. And it's reduced my appetite, which is a very good thing. But this one, I used Mary Shell. That's the original Mary Shell. And then I decided, well, how can I connect these together? Well, actually, I'd rather like half of them, almost like they're tucked in behind one another. And then over here, I didn't use a whole Mary Shell. I just used part of it. But I used Ambler in that wonky kind of thing. And this year, I like the Mary Shell. I don't like what I did with shading. Pitt Artist pens, not for me. For shading, great for colouring if I need it. But then I decided I'd work on this. So I've got Ambler in a similar way to the first version. Mary Shell, I started with one and then used half ones. But I've got variations here. Instead of using Muka, I used these leaves that I've shown earlier in today's live stream. I've got Ambler as a fragment, as little tiles, as if it's broken up into its little pieces and scattered itself. Or Mary Shell's going, no, don't like you, want you more random. And then on the other side, I've ended up with I started off with a triangular Ambler here, and I just grew it off. I didn't want a regular grid or anything like that. I just drew shapes and let them become the shapes they are. In some places, I've got a straight line between them. That's fine. In other places, it's just a right complete mishmash of things. I've got kite shapes. I've got trapezoids. I think I've got parallelograms somewhere and some very weird things. And that's fine. It's fun. It's different. And that is something I would use because I like that. So there's all of these things. And then with Ampleon, again, there's just a few of the variations I came up with. In fact, very few, because most of these are new or based on ones I'd already drawn, and I decided to change them. Still can't get over that as being a scary face, mind you. Yeah, I have issues. So it is just about trusting yourself, or giving yourself permission to trust yourself, being willing to try different things and work with it in the way that makes your heart contented or joyful, that makes you smile. Maybe not on your face, but inside. There's something about it that brings you happiness. And however you create art, then that's a good thing. But I also think it's a good thing if you go outside boxes and boundaries and say, well, I like this, but what happens if? That what happens if can be a dangerous thing in science. But in art, it might mean that you go, I don't like that, but if I do this, I know I'll like it. Or you put it to one side, come back a couple of days later and you go, actually, that's worked out. I can't tell you how many times that's happened to me. All right. Oh, I'm so glad you're feeling brave. And may that bravery continue with your art, because it's important. I think it is. I'm not drawing them, I'm just talking now, but we're humans, and to be human is to be creative. It's finding out how we want to express ourselves creatively is the big challenge. And the next challenge is remembering that it's kind of our birthright, it's part of who we are, and learning how we want to express that. And exploration, adventuring, which is why I changed the name of my channel to Art is the Adventure, is so important because it's how we learn, how we grow, how we develop. That's what happens throughout the whole of our life. And art just echoes that, in my opinion. And, you know, as I look around my room here, I've got oil paintings on my wall that I did for my A-level about 20 years ago. And I can still see my influences there of Romanesque architecture and engines and machinery, steam engines particularly, steam locomotives indeed. But I've also got etchings of dragons. I've got some work that's been based around calligraphy to express ideas and shapes and synonyms for the ideas that the properties of it, or what I associate things with. So it's been expressing myself artistically but using words. I've got some textile art out in the hallway here, which is based on Monet, but the colours of Monet and some of the shapes, but I made it myself with beads that sparkle and twinkle like water. And that was fun to do. But I find when I settle down to do textile art today, it doesn't feel the right way for me. Paper and pen is something I always go back to. I explore with other media. I try other things out. I like colours, but I'm not very good at using them, which sounds strange, but it's true. And I'm trying to find out what's the best way for me to express myself, what media there is. And I keep circling around and going, still not happy with any of them. Markers are pretty good, but you can be very limited by the colours because can't just find the colour I want. Can do in watercolour, but mixing it is an issue, and using watercolour is an issue for me. Watercolour pencils are great. You can get so many different colours ready mixed. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, so let's carry on with this, shall we? Okie doke. So, ooh, yes, it's an 03. That's fine. So let's have a look. Done this kind of shape. What if we do a pointy W shape instead? That gives a bit more space at the top to put things on. So here I'm going to add one petal like that. So again, this isn't dissimilar to what's going on here. It's just that we're going up, and instead of going down, we're going up, you know, in this kind of way. And then I can put another petal on next to it. Just by changing the shape, and the shape here, we've just altered things that little bit more. Let me have a look. Another one that I liked for the base was this kind of shape, but with a semicircle underneath, kind of like an upside down ginkgo leaf. This was fun because I could put teardrop shapes there and then have another one at the top. And again, I love these shapes inside. I could leave it like that, or I could put just some extra little petally like things there, so that works nicely. And again, with this one, I'm just going to do that shape. I'm going to use this shape again because I've just spotted one I'd like to share. This time, it's going to be like this. It looks almost like a beetle, except I'm going to put some petals behind it that kind of stick out. And I quite like that. So it's almost like we've got a bud closed up or just beginning to open. And this one just lends itself so wonderfully. And yet, it's not that far removed from this. I'm going to draw a nice big semicircle, but with a straight edge at the top. And then I'm going to start to nest, because this feels like nesting things, like you're stacking bowls one inside another. And yet we've got another flower just like that, just by changing the shapes of the petals and how we've put them together. I like that one. I like that one more than this one. But, you know, went from this to this. If you can see, it's what my head would have gone, oh, I wonder what happened if those petals were open. What shape would they be? Well, they'd have a straight edge and a round bottom. So let's open them. Well, what comes out from inside? So I quite like that. And just one more here, because it's not just flowers that we can create from this, she says. There you go, just creating something else, is that I can create seed pods as well. I can go here, have one here, and one there. Like so. And perhaps just one more at the top just to finish it off because it was looking a bit weird. But there we are, we've got like seeds all in a spike there. You could carry it on and carry it on as much as you like. I've got space for just one more, haven't I? Okay, I'm going to use this shape again. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to looks almost like an iris. And that's how it kind of would be, I suppose. But we can have these as leaves if you like, and this then as the stem, and perhaps some flowers there. And even though we could have a triangle shape, again, for petals, and perhaps a petal at the bottom, so we have three-lobed flower and perhaps with little leaves on. All same idea, the same kind of principle. So that's Feist. And I haven't drawn the borders in on that one, as in black. Okie dokes, where's my other, I've got my last piece of paper. I am going to do day 5, because day 5 follows on in a weird and wonderful kind of way. Because day 5 is another organic tangle, and it's called Heart Nouveau, although it feels more like Art Deco or Heart Deco to me. But, you know, they share some similarities, the stylized nature of the work and so on. This one vexed me as well, until I reminded myself, Angela, it's just a starting point. And off you go. You know, you can do this, girl. And I thought, yes, I can. And so I've come up with variations, but they're not so far from the original, I don't think. So I'm just going to put my lines here so I can add the heading and the name, which I will do. This is day 5, and that means I'm up to date then. Is that wonky? Everything's looking wonky. I think it's because I've got a grid behind me. But this one is Heart Nouveau. This is by Romi Borax Marks. I think it was Borax. I think I did double check that. I'm not sure if Romi is a CZT or not, but for this one I think I will just draw a pen border around. I might do on the other one actually eventually. I'm deliberately doing wobbly lines because I think they add some charm. That's another reason I don't like drawing with a ruler. The lines always feel very what's the word I'm looking for? Mechanical. Whereas if they've got a bit of a wobble in it, it feels much more human. I think as I've got on, rather than looking for perfection in lines, because I always used to be a great perfectionist in drawing things perfectly with the lines perfectly straight and so on. But this one, again, was something that has kind of vexed me just a bit. In fact, I think I went, no, I didn't go on to do 2 pages of it. That was another one. Jeez. Just a bit. And eventually I think I found my own way, possibly. But I've got variations. So the way I found it easiest to draw this is this way, is by starting with an upside down heart. Then you can draw the wings of the W, the U shape underneath, and complete the wings on the other side. And of course, this is where the stem appears, isn't it? The next step is to use this to draw like a giant petal in there, which then is split up. From here, we're going to draw a loop that goes around, basically from the bottom or close to the bottom of the W. But then I'm going to come back down here and just give myself, well, that way. It's almost like a lip. It's almost like there's a lily pad behind it. That's how I see it. Then these bits here, I'm going to take that finer pen, the O2. Is this inner part here needs to be split up. And I don't like to split it in the middle. I always like an odd number. So if I'm going to add colour, I've got the options of adding colour. But what I'm doing, instead of drawing just straight lines, I'm just curving my line at the end, because it starts to give the impression that this petal is curved. And I am just adding some inky glue there, some inky glue here. Inky glue is always good. There's always something about adding that little extra bit of solder or weight here that just makes sense. There we are. So that's my first version. But just to take these as a variation, again, I'm going to start with a heart. I'm going to start with that. I've made these quite straight, these little leaves here. What I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to draw it rather rounded, and then from here I'm going to draw my little leafy bits in for this part and bring it around further up the top, like so. I hope that made sense. So I drew these bits in before I drew this. So it looks like the edge of this petal or whatever it is has curled up already. Yeah. So it's beginning to curl up. That's the idea here. I think that's why this one vexes me a bit. So I'm going to do the same thing here, where I'm just going to split this up into sections. Each section getting a little bit smaller than the last one, a little bit narrower. And again, I like that. It works. Just do the bottom bit as well. There we go. Bit of ink there, bit of ink there. Where else do we need it? Here. Here and here. And I am just going to put a partial aura inside the heart just to bring that out. I'm going to do the same here. Like so. So there's two variations. Okay. What about another one? Well, I'm going to draw a rather wide heart. Like so, like so. And then I'm going to use my pencil because I can. And I'm going to want to draw my petals that little bit longer. I want them to go this way. I want to make a nice arc there. And these are just going to be my petals to begin with. So I am going to, instead of drawing the arc in, I'm going to draw some petals in. I'm going to make them almost like little hearts. But remember, I'm going to bend the lines of them so that they feel like they too are dimensional, they're bending or, you know, curving backwards. You bring that out with shadow and highlight. But I quite like that. And then we've got this disky thing to do, haven't we? So I'm going to go down around underneath here, up and right the way towards the top. And I'm going to do the same that side. And then to get this with the little leafy thing in, I'm going to take it almost up to the top of this. And that curve has a kind of S shape to it. And again, we've got that now. So we've got this one. Okie dokes. So we can use a heart shape, but what about if we used a different shape? How about a nice cuddly teardrop shape? Well, of course we can. And for this one, I'm going to add the leaves and I'm going to join this at the bottom. I'm just going to put up one of my favourite little beads there. So how are we going to deal with this? Well, I'm going to do the same thing here. Is I'm going to give myself some space for my petals. I really need to learn to draw these with a bit more space between them. Leave some more space. I keep forgetting about this skirt we're putting around it, or hood. Collar. It's like a collar, isn't it? See, like kind of collar you'd see baddies wearing in films, bad, you know, bad females around the back of the head. Actually, men as well. Yeah, that'll do. So what I'm going to do here is a little bit different. I'm going to start from the bottom. I'm going to go out, down and up, just like that. And then the next one, I'm going to not join there, I'm going to go in a little bit, like so, and like so. So like so, and like so. Like so. I'm going to make it quite a little gap here at the top, and then I can put something in there. So that works nicely. And I'm going to add another one of those inside. What about the collar, the villain collar? Like so. Again, like that. So we've got a collar behind it. These are baddies, possibly. I guess they could be also quite elegant. Depends on your point of view. I always associate this with baddies in films for some reason. Okie dokes. What about a different shape again? So I've got a teardrop but with a little seed or bubble on the top. So I'm going to go like this on either side. And this time I'm going to go like this for the bottom instead. And again, I'm just going to draw in where I would like this slot to go. And I'm going to start from the bottom on each side, but this time I'm going to draw little heart-shaped petals in. Got fewer petals on one side, but I'm not worried. There's 6 in all, which is fine. So we've got that. And then for this, close to the bottom and just in like that. There we go. That works okay. Okie dokes. Any other shapes? Oh, our hearts are upside down, so what if we put them the right way up? Because, you know, it's nice to have a right way up hearts, isn't it? Same principles. We've got a kind of W shape at the bottom. I haven't put the dent in for the stem. And for this one then, I'm going to echo the shape of a heart. And I'm going to start at the, I'll start at the top. And then I can follow these round. Like so. Remembering to bend the edge of the petals as I need to, or feel I can. Not perfect, but I've now got heart-shaped flower with heart. Not so keen on the petals. I thought it was a good idea, but apparently not. But does it matter? Nope. Because I know not to do that, or not to use shapes like this. Perhaps I would have been better using a solid heart shape like these. But what I can do is I can pop in something like that, which is fun. Okay, what else can we do? All right. I'm going to stick to my right way up heart for now, because there is something I definitely want to do, because this is perhaps my favourite variation that I've come up with. So I am going to stay quite close in here to my petals, and I'm going to just draw these lines out like so. Join them together just with a soft and gentle curve, so it's not just a straight edge, like so. And then what I want to do here is I'm going to go around like so. I'm going to go around like so. I'm then going to give myself that little curled edge. And I've now got that skirt, as it were, or that collar, as a background for something that could look like a seed or something behind it. You know, like what's the thing I'm looking for? Like some like some lilies you get where, and lords and ladies and so on, where you've got the petal or the petal or the altered leaf. Can't think what it's modified leaf that looks like a petal surrounding the spathe inside, which is the true part of the flower. The same with lilies. they're actually modified leaves, the spathe, the bit inside that yellow stem or other things, that like the calla lilies are there as modified spathes. Petals are modified leaves. The spathe is where the flower is, the flower, as it were. It's got the pollen and the ovary in it. And so the rest are just, anyway, I'm wittering. I could be wrong about modified leaves with lilies, but certainly in the case of arum lilies, wild arum, lords and ladies, as we call it, that's the case. Yes. What else? Oh, yeah. I'm going to do one more because so much here. Oh, actually, two more, I think, because so much here is very similar. Okay, so here I'm going to have the leaves, or these parts, curling up at the end, you know, becoming pointy there. And then I'm going to use this to create the petals within, as it were. Now for this one, I'm going to curve these in a slightly different way, just to see what it looks like, to see if I like this, where instead of having them curving outwards, we've got them curving inwards. And I think I am going to split that there. Okay, so I am going to do one of these like so, with the, like that. I'm going to put my stem in. Then what I thought could be fun would be to add some more of these that perhaps are hidden behind, like so, messed up. So it's sort of like you've got layers of them, as if there's layer after layer of opened. I haven't drawn it very well, but I think you'll get the idea. I did say there was one more I wanted to do, didn't I? So it's starting with this same shape to launch things off. Like so. And again, my stem. And I'm going to start at the edge here again with this kind of triangle shape. But then I'm going to draw a triangle shape from here, or that curve from there, down a bit so I can have it bending upwards, like so. And then I'm just going to draw a line in like that. So it creates something that's a lot more geometrical. And I am going to put a border inside there, and perhaps just simply split this with straight lines. But that seems to add dimension in a different way. I thought that was an intriguing way of doing things. I'm just having a look to see what else. I think I've covered everything. The interesting thing about this, though, is that these can stand on their own if you wish, without the spathe underneath them, or the, you know, the skirt or the collar. So that would make quite a nice little flower on its own, perhaps with just a little leaf there. So these central parts could become either flowers on their own in their entirety, or little parts of them. You could have them hanging down from things, which would be quite fun. So if I had this way and like this, that could be fun, you know, with some little leaves on, like a vine. So it could be a leaf itself, or it could be a seed. that perhaps is wind blown. You know, you see with maple or sycamore seeds, like the helicopters. There's others that do it. There's so many different kinds of seeds. It's fascinating, like pollen. Yeah, I'm a scientist, am I? Can't help it. And this one really vexed me because everything, I just couldn't get out of this mould of having this base and top. But then it's so much like the others that I've done, wherever I've put them, there. You know, the principles are the same as this. It's just what we do that makes this different here. You've got the base for the petals. You've got something in the middle that the petals grow from. This one, you've got the collar, the skirts, whatever you want to call it, around the outside. Here, you don't have that. This one obviously isn't. This one's more architectural. Still quite organic, but it's quite architectural in its nature. So, yeah, I know, I did a Roman numeral just because I can. So I have all of these done. I'll try and remember, I desperately need a mug of tea, and I might need a bit of a lay down after this. Not really. To get them scanned in so you can see them all. I think before I finish though, I may just start, I'll just continue or do some shading with a pencil. Now then, I've got to find the pencil I want. I really don't want the matte black because it's too dark. I'm not a fan of pencil, as you know. Let me have a look and see. Oh, hang on, I've got a, no, it's a Graffy tint. That one's very dark as well. It's another Graffy tint. Hair. I will. Oh, I'm so glad you enjoyed it, Oz. Good morning, Ren. Ren Fair Goddess, Renaissance Fair. I'm sure that stands for Renaissance. I've got a pencil, a graphite pencil and a paper stump. So let's have a look at adding some shading to this. Don't think I've got a white anything here. I've got a white, it's probably a white marker pen or gel pen here. So I'm adding some shading behind the crescent, or the crescent moons, not the pattern crescent moon, but the crescent moons here. And I'm going to add some down here. The pencil I'm using is a 4B Pitt Graphite Matte Pencil from Faber-Castell. Of all pencils I could use for this, these are my favourites because they're not as shiny as other graphite pencils. So I'm just adding some shading here, here, here and here, just to pop those out a little bit, get you down. Here I'm going to add shading at the base of each of these sections, perhaps a little bit under there. I'm not adding a lot because the more you, it's always easy to add more if you want to than it is to take it away. And I can take it away because I have an eraser. I have many erasers. For my crescent moon, I think I'm going to put some just at the base and towards the centre. I think. So that started to bring that a bit to life. I think I need a bit more here. I may get a different pencil out now because this is nice, but it's not as soft as I want. Excuse my arm. Can't see that there. Where is it? I'm sure I had a black wing pencil here. Apparently not. But I have got this. This is a platinum Apsara pencil. They're not expensive. They're extra dark for good handwriting. They're also extra dark for adding shade. Hopefully. They really were quite cheap for a box of 12. I can't remember how much, but they've been in my stash for ages. And I do like writing with a pencil when I remember, which I have now. So I've got some shading going on either side there. See, oh gosh, as I bash it on the table, on my drawing. That'll do. Okie dokes. On this one, try and keep my pencil structures in here. Not going to guarantee I'm going to be able to, mind, but because I want to remind myself how I prefer to create this. So I'm looking at places where lines come together, where they cross over, one goes under, as well as adding shading in different places. So I want some here, I'll want some here. There I'll want some as well. Got some coming down there, along the edge there. Okie dokes, let's have a look and see if we can get the shading to work. It might be very subtle on the camera, but I can certainly see it. I prefer subtle than in my face to a degree. But I do like high contrast, not just not the graphite. It's just my personal preference. That's my prejudice against using graphite for shading. I guess it's not so bad if I've got a coloured background, because it's still, the colour still shows through. But I really do have an issue with it. So it's just looking at things like that. For these leaves, if I do it on this one, I'd most probably put some shading along these curved edges and a little bit at the top. And just like that. Now then, I know where my white pens are, my Posca pen. Yay! Remembered where I put it. Thought I'd put it in my tub. But if I take my Posca pen, I can add some white at the top. Oh, this is very runny. Don't know what's the matter with it. Must probably been in the wrong place for a while. Right, are you okay? Are you all right? Hopefully. It's not coming out very white at the moment. Give it a really good shaky shake. Ah, there we go. We have ink. Icky ink, but we have ink. That'll be very clunky because it's not my preferred way of adding highlights, but it'll do. So we've got some highlights there. I'm going to have some highlights here at the top of these, and there. That look cool. And there. There, 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 there. Top there. Top. May not show up too much because the colour's quite subtle on the background. So I'll pop this to one side. The others, the principles are all the same. I'm not going to do them all because I'll be here for a month of Sundays. These ones, again, I'm hoping that I'm going to add shading here that will help to bring these things out and make some sense of it and stop them looking quite like scary faces. We shall see. It's not too shabby. Just add some graphite with what's on this paper tortillon there. I think we could do with some more shading there. Really needs a softer pencil. That one's just a bit too hard. I can't see one here. Could have sworn I had one in there. Apparently not. Which is fine. So that does help, doesn't it? Let's have a look here and see if shading will help here and stop the scary faces. So I am going to the bottom of these, behind these, and there. Do the leaves. Sorry, once I've seen the scary faces, it's not going to go away. Do you remember, I don't know if any of you remember the flock wallpaper that was popular in the 60s, 70s. That thing had some seriously scary faces in it. Sort of like a damask pattern, damask. And it was really freaky, let me tell you. Well, I was never scared of it, but, you know, sort of like once I saw the faces and the pattern, you can't stop seeing them. And it's just pareidolia, which is your brain trying to make sense of things that it hasn't seen before, or trying to pattern match it. Because basically our brains are really lazy. They really are. And they, if they can pattern match, they will. Sort of like our brains don't ignore a lot of what's around us, tell us that this, if nothing's changing around us. So for example, I can see this year is changing. And, you know, my eyes are wobbling a little bit as I'm looking at things, because that's what happens. Your eyes wobble a tiny bit because it keeps your brain going, oh, it's still looking at you. But your brain's filling in all the stuff that isn't moving. It's saying, well, it hasn't moved, so it still looks like that. I'm not showing you a new picture. I've got lots of other things to do. So, which is quite interesting. So we've got that. I'm going to use some of this because I'm going to put some dots around the top. This is the reason I don't like Posca pens much, but they'll do. Gee, it's much brighter on this one. It's because there's more colour on this particular paper. So that'll be okay. On here, I'm going to put some just on the crest of the petals. I'll fill my little teardrop shapes in with all white though. Hide the crimes, the little mistakes there. Put some around here, some around there, some around there, some around there. And here, perhaps just some highlights, dotted highlights down the centre there. I'll put a little dot there. Little dots. That's now made it definitely into eyes. Oh well, I had to have at least one creepy cute thing here today. Everything's pretty much the same. I'm just going to go firtling for a different pencil. Oh, it's a 2B. It's an ordinary graphite one, but it needs a pencil sharpener. Where's my pencil sharpener? There. Our pencil sharpener will sharpen pencils. Excuse the noise. Done. And the rattling table. There we go. We got a nice pencil here now. So these ones. That shading should stand out a little bit more because it is that little bit darker. There we go. So with these, it's all, the shading is all at the bottom. I'm just teasing it upwards. Like so. That works okay. What others? It's all basically the same kind of idea. So where they overlap, they all overlap there, and at the bottom. There we go. So just do this one just to get that idea going, that hopefully now if I'd started in the middle with the petal, then the shading would have been opposite, or the way they would have nested would have been opposite. Yeah, they would have. So the shading would be opposite, but I think you get the idea, I'm sure. Just some shading there, and then some reason I like dotted highlights rather than straight lines. It's just something nice about dots. There we go. And there's that one. So I'll leave that to dry because that Posca pen will take a wee while. Has it dried on here yet? Badly. There's some of these I need to go over with pen because I've made a right mess of the shapes. Let's have a look at these. Definitely want shading here and round these. And along here. Around the middle there is a place to have some shading, and along the edge, because the edge will be back, further back, so it won't get as much light. Well, that's how I think of it. Whether that's the correct explanation, I don't know, but it works for me. And then on the bottom here, just some there. This would have some shading at the bottom, I think. There we go. So we've got that. This one, I'm going to add shading there and some underneath. Not going to do too much because everything's beginning to look a little bit grey. All right, which others? Pick one more. This one would be interesting. So I'm going to put shading all the way around there. Around here. Under there. Under there. Towards the bottom there. Definitely here where these go in. And let's have a look and see how that was going to work. The idea of using a tortillon or a paper stump or some other tool to blend graphite in isn't to spread the graphite as far as possible. It's to tease it into the paper so that it's less likely to smudge. It does depend on the hardness of pencil, the type of paper you've got, but it's always best to handle the paper with as minimally as possible after you've used this and the white charcoal. Don't have one to hand. That one works, and this one I'm going to put some shading like this, which will sort of go out, but it should leave a lighter area underneath it around the side to suggest I've got a highlight there, that it's got some curvature to it, a bit like this one really. There we go. And then I'll use what graphite's on here just to do the stem. Okay, so for this with highlights, again I'm just going to put some dots down the centre. I haven't put any shading on the edge because I knew that I'd want more shading at the base of these petals. And here, just along the edge, perhaps a couple there, a couple here, and that works nicely. Same here, I'm just going to put some highlights down the centre. where the graphite hasn't reached. Some here. Something, couple there perhaps. Perhaps some in the heart in the centre, even though it's dark. There we go. So I've now done some of all of these, and I'd use the same ideas no matter how I add graphite, but we've got some graphite to all of them. So I've finished. 2.5 hours. It's not bad, is it? Oh, good night, Oz. Hello, Christine. Not a problem. It'll be available in the live section of my channel. So you can replay it at any time. Yeah, Oz, yeah. If Oz hasn't gone, hopefully you'll see it. It's there. But yes, I hope those who've been here throughout this have enjoyed it. Those who've popped in and out or are watching it on replay, enjoy it. And I look forward to you sharing your creations with me if you wish to. My details will be on my channel, where you can find me, what to look, where you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and my blog, because I'm not going to do that today, write my blog, but I need large cups of tea and a bit of a sit down for a bit. I might do some knitting for a while just to chill a bit. So I'm up to date with my Inktober Zen. You can tell I've done enough here today. I'm finding it harder to speak. I've caught up with Inktober Tangles 2024. We're on day 5 today. I've done day 5. I will need to take images of these to share on social media and so on. I'm not going to do it now. I'm going to go and get some tea. So thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget, you can watch it again by going to the live section of my channel. That's where you find all of these. They're available to view again and again and again. And I look forward to catching up with you again. Fingers crossed for tomorrow. So being Sunday, I should be all right in the afternoon. I know I'm doing something in the morning, but in the afternoon I should be okay. And hopefully I'll get day 6 done. I don't know what day 6 is. Well, I do, but I can't remember. Let's have a look in my sketchbook. Ooh. So, oh yeah, great. Another organic tangle. Okay, so these are my sketchbook pages for Amplion. Not so many of them, but I know I haven't worked all my way through. Feist took some interesting turns. Oh, that one's a fun one. I didn't see that one. There's so many here, it's hard to pick things out. This is my Heart Nouveau page, which has worked out okay, Then we've got S-Barn by Midori Furuhashi CZT next time. And you can see that has definitely taken some very interesting descriptions. Then day 7 is Xander. Day 8 is, Con S's. Oh, that was a nightmare. There's 2 pages on it until I worked out how it works for me. I worked it out a bit quicker, but it was a mare. So if you have trouble with that one, I'm with you. But I got there. I made it my own in the end, which is all that matters. So thank you for joining me as you hear me tidying up here. And I'll see you again soon. Bye, everybody. Ta-ra. Bye for now.